Hello everyone, and welcome to my CBS Full Today channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Not Noah, the identity of the father of Sienna's future child, has caused a sensation. The morning fog still cleaved to Genoa city when the verity began to unravel, the kind of Argentine, heavy air that always sounded to settle before commodity disastrous came to light. Sienna stood alone in her extension, one hand resting protectively over her slightly visible baby bump, the other clinging her phone like a lifeline. Her reflection in the bottom-to-ceiling windows told a story she hadn't dared say out loud yet, sweat mixed with defiance, guilt tangled with resoluteness. For weeks, everyone had believed the same thing, that Noah Newman was the father of her future child. It was neat, logical, accessible, and fully wrong. The scuttlebutt shop had formerly been grinding relentlessly. Tales followed Sienna far and wide, from society to crimson lights to the hushed corners of Newman Enterprises. The narrative had been written for her before she ever spoke. Reckless affair, broken trust, another Newman reproach staying to explode. Noah, still bruised from once dolor, had worn the weight of that supposition like a quiet discipline. He hadn't verified anything intimately, but he hadn't denied it moreover. In Genoa city, silence was as good as a concession. But that morning, commodity shifted. At Crimson Lights, Sharon tasted it first. She'd been around long enough to fate the signs, the way exchanges suddenly stopped when someone entered the room, the way phones were checked just a little too frequently. When Faith mentioned that Sienna had requested a private meeting with several crucial people that autumn, Sharon's stomach tensed. This wasn't going to be a baby shower advertisement. This was a reckoning. Noah arrived late, frustration etched into his face. He ordered his coffee mechanically, slightly admitting the sympathetic looks thrown his way. Sharon studied her son, heart-aching. "You don't have to carry this alone," she said gently. Noah gave a thin smile, the kind meant to assure others rather than himself. "I don't indeed know what this is yet, Mama." Across city, Victoria Newman read the same communication Sienna had transferred to several people, an assignation that felt more like a process. Victoria didn't like surprises, especially bones, involving secrets, gravidity, and implicit Newman fallout. She encouraged the communication to Victor without comment. Within seconds, her phone buzzed. "I'll handle it," Victor replied. By early autumn, the room at Society was filled with pressure so thick it was nearly visible. Victor sat at the head of the table, composed, undecipherable. Nick leaned against the bar, arms crossed, his eyes zipping toward the door. Summer rumored to Kyle, Enterprise formally contending ahead of Data. And Noah stood piecemeal, gaping at the bottom, bracing himself for whatever interpretation of the verity was about to land on him. When Sienna eventually walked in, the room went silent. She looked calm, nearly eerily so, dressed in a simple cream-colored dress that emphasized how real this gestation was. She didn't smile. She didn't apologize. She took her time walking to the center of the room, making eye contact with each person in turn, moping on Noah just long enough for his casket to strain. "I'm going to say this formally," Sienna began, her voice steady but low. "And I need everyone to hear before jumping to conclusions again." Victor's eyes narrowed. "Also speak." Sienna took a breath. "Noah Newman isn't the father of my child." The words hit like a sonic smash. Summer heaved aloud. Nick uncurled, shock flashing across his face. Kyle murmured, "What?" under his breath. And Noah felt the air rush back into his lungs each at formally, relief and confusion colliding so violently he'd to snare the reverse of a president to steady himself. "What do you mean, not Noah?" Nick demanded. "You let everyone believe." "I let everyone assume," Sienna shot back. "There's a difference." Noah eventually looked up, his voice coarse. "Also, who is?" For a split second, Sienna dithered. That pause alone transferred ripples of apprehension through the room. Victor leaned forward slightly, seeing blood in the water. Whatever name was coming next wasn't going to be simple. Before she could answer, the door opened again. And that's when Genoa City truly stopped breathing. The man who stepped outside wasn't someone anyone anticipated, not someone who fit neatly into the narrative they'd all constructed. He carried himself with quiet confidence, his expression undecipherable, eyes surveying the room with the familiarity of someone who knew exactly what kind of storm he'd just walked into. Adam Newman. Gasps erupted. Summer's face went pale. Nick spun around, unbelief etched into every line of his face. Victor's jaw tensed nearly gradually, just enough to give him down. Sienna didn't look surprised. In fact, she looked relieved. This, she said vocally, turning toward Adam, is the father of my child. The response was instant and explosive. Nick surged forward. You've got to be kidding me. No, Adam replied calmly. She's not. Noah goggled at Adam, shock sluggishly giving way to commodity darker. You knew, he said still. You knew all this time. Adam met his aspect. Without recoiling. I knew the verity would come out when it was ready. Victor stood suddenly. You allowed. Hiding this was respectable? I allowed. Guarding my child was, Adam shot back, a rare edge of vulnerability slipping into his voice. The word child sounded to echo through the room, changing everything. Sienna eventually allowed the emotion she'd been holding back to face. I didn't want this to turn into a Newman civil war, she said. But I'm done lying. Adam and I were involved. Compactly. Intensively. And yes, it happened during a time when everyone assumed I was still tangled up with Noah. I wasn't. Noah swallowed hard. The treason soaked, but beneath it was an inarguable sense of release. So all the aesthetics, the judgment that was no way meant for me. I'm sorry, Sienna said, authentically this time. You didn't earn that. The fallout was immediate and far-reaching. Within hours, the story had spread across Genoa City like campfire. Phones buzzed. Captions were drafted. Social media exploded with enterprise. Adam Newman's secret father? Newman baby stunner rocks Genoa City. The reproach was no longer academic, it was veritably real. At Newman Enterprises, Victoria brazened Adam behind unrestricted doors. Do you have any idea what this does to the company? She snapped. Adam scowled noiselessly. Funny. That wasn't your first concern when you allowed. The baby was Noah's. Victoria strengthened. This isn't a game. No, Adam agreed. It's my life. Meanwhile, Nick sought out Noah, chancing him alone at the estate. Father and son sat in silence for a long moment before Nick spoke. You okay? Noah considered the question. I don't know, he admitted. But I know this, I'm done being everyone's dereliction villain. Sharon hugged him tightly latterly that night, bruiting. The verity has a way of setting fires before it brings peace. As for Sienna, the weight she'd been carrying eventually began to lift, but it was replaced by commodity differently entirely query. Adam promised to be involved, to stand by her and the baby, but she knew better than anyone that life with a Newman was no way simple. Especially that Newman. In a quiet moment, Victor possessed Sienna at the estate. That child will be a Newman, he said forcefully. Sienna met his aspect. Unafraid. That child will be mine first. Victor smiled thinly. We'll see. And just like that, the stage was set. Because in Genoa City, the verity no way ends a story. It only starts the coming war. The days following the disclosure felt fantastic, as if Genoa City itself had listed off its axis. Far and wide Sienna went, eyes followed. Some curious. Some hypercritical. Some calculating. The baby inside her sounded to smell the shift too, remonstrating more frequently, harder, like a memorial that there was no turning back now. This wasn't just her reproach presently. This was a Newman heritage extremity in the timber. Adam moved into action incontinently, but not in the way anyone anticipated. Rather than hiding or diverting, he leaned into the verity with unsettling calm. At Newman Media, he shut the door to his office and addressed his platoon directly. There will be enterprise, he said flatly. There will be noise. Ignore it. We don't respond to gossip, we outlive it. Some workers respected his confidence. Others tasted commodity darker beneath it, a man who had decided this child would be his redemption, whether the world approved or not. Victoria, meanwhile, went into full damage control mode. She listed meetings, cancelled interviews, and ordered legal reviews within hours. To her, the gestation wasn't just particular, it was a trouble. Another changeable variable connected to Adam was the last thing she demanded while fighting for stability at Newman Enterprises. "This baby ties him to us ever," she told Nick during a late-night strategy meeting. "We cut him loose formally. We won't get that chance again." Nick rubbed his tabernacles. "You're talking about a child like it's a hostile preemption." "I'm talking about reality," Victoria snapped. "Adam doesn't do anything without influence." Nick didn't answer, but his silence spoke volumes. Across city, Noah plodded to reclaim his identity after weeks of being still blackened. People who had avoided him now offered awkward grins and justifications. But exculpation didn't bring peace. It brought frustration. He felt used, by hypotheticals, by silence, by a story that had no way been his to begin with. When he eventually brazened Sienna intimately, it wasn't wrathfulness that dominated the room. It was disappointment. "You let me stand there," Noah said, voice steady but concave. "You watched people look at me like I was reckless like I was my father at his worst." Sienna's eyes filled with gashes. "I was spooked," she admitted. "And Adam induced me that the longer we awaited, the safer it would be." Noah scoffed vocally. "For who?" She didn't answer. She didn't have to. The verity was getting clearer by the hour. Adam had been pulling strings long before anyone realized there was a game. Sharon, ever the emotional anchor, tried to help Noah make sense of it all. "Occasionally people stay silent because they suppose they're guarding everyone," she said gently. "And occasionally," Noah replied, "they're guarding themselves." That same night, Summer brazened Adam in society, her wrathfulness slightly contained. "You let Noah take the fall," she indicted. "You watched him helical while you stayed silent." Adam met her fire with ice. "I didn't produce the supposition. You served from it." A beat passed. Also Adam leaned near. "And now the verity is out. What do you want from me? An reason or a concession?" Summer shook her head. "I want to know if this baby is just another move to you." For the first time, Adam faltered. "No," he said still. "This bone is different." But indeed, as he spoke the words, mistrustfulness flitted in Summer's eyes, and in his own. Sienna wasn't eyeless to the shifting dynamics. The further Adam asserted his presence, the further she felt herself losing control of her own story. Victor began calling, constantly, subtly at first, also not so subtly at all. "This child will have coffers," Victor said during one visit. "Security, occasion, a future, and a price label." Sienna combated. Victor's lips twisted into a thin smile. "Everything has a cost." That night, Sienna locked herself in her apartment and cried, not out of remorse, but fear. She'd wanted the verity out, but she hadn't anticipated how snappily it would be claimed by forces far more important than her. Meanwhile, whispers began circulating, whispers that hovered to crack the story wide open again. At Crimson Lights, Phyllis eavesdropped commodity she shouldn't have. A hushed discussion between two medical staff from Memorial Hospital. A reference to dates. Timing. A window that didn't relatively line up the way everyone assumed. Phyllis's eyes lusted. Well, she murmured. "This just got intriguing." She wasted no time bringing the information to Nick. "Still," Phyllis said, "also Adam might not be the only possibility, if Sienna's dates are out by indeed a week." Nick strengthened. "You're saying there's another man?" "I'm saying," Phyllis replied with a grin, "that Genoa City loves her effect." When Nick brazened Sienna with the possibility, she said, "That's insolvable," she said too snappily. Nick's voice softened. "Is it?" The silence that followed was ruinous. Across city, Adam felt it too, that subtle shift in the air when certainty begins to erode. He ordered a private antenatal appointment, blood work, preventives. He told himself it was about responsibility, but deep down, paranoia had begun to creep in. Victor noticed incontinently. "You missed out," Victor said during a chess game at the estate. Adam didn't look up. I corroborate. Victor moved his queen decisively. Smart men do both. As the pressure mounted, Sienna eventually broke. She requested a DNA test but not intimately. Still, intimately. She demanded answers before the world demanded them. The results would take days. Days that felt like times. During that time, Adam tried to play family man, showing up with vitamins, setting up a nursery in his extension, talking about seminaries and names. It should have felt comforting. Rather, it felt suffocating. You're moving too presto, Sienna told him one night. I'm moving forward, Adam replied. There's a difference. But you're not hearkening, she said. This baby doesn't fix you. Adam's jaw tensed. I no way said it would. The test results eventually arrived on a stormy evening, the kind Y&R suckers knew meant trouble. Sienna goggled at the envelope for a long time before opening it, her hands pulsing. When she eventually read the words, the color drained from her face. Adam Newman wasn't barred. But he wasn't verified moreover. The probability wasn't conclusive. There was another possible father. Her breath caught. The name goggled back at her like a ghost. Someone from her history. Someone she'd sworn she'd no way drag into this. And someone whose return would make Adam look domestic by comparison. As thunder cracked outdoors, Sienna realized the verity she'd just unleashed was only the morning. Because the baby wasn't just a Newman reproach. It was a ticking time lemon. And Genoa City was standing right on top of it. The rain didn't let up that night, pounding against the windows of Sienna's apartment as though Genoa City itself were demanding answers. She sat on the edge of her bed, the DNA report folded and unfolded so numerous times the paper had gone soft. Not barred. 2 words that changed everything. Adam wasn't cleared but he wasn't verified. Which meant the verity was still loose, still able of destroying lives. Her mind kept circling back to the name she hadn't said out loud yet. The man she hadn't planned on seeing again. Holden. She hadn't indeed realized how tightly she'd been holding her breath until her phone bucketed in her hand. A textbook. No name. Just a number she knew by heart. We need to talk. Her blood ran cold. At Newman Enterprises, Adam was formally unraveling. He goggled at his reflection in the darkened glass of his office, the megacity lights blurring behind him. He'd lived his entire life fighting for a place he believed was his. Now, the idea that the one thing he allowed was eventually his child, might slip down was unsupportable. When Victor entered without knocking, Adam didn't turn around. You feel it, Victor said calmly. Query. Adam gripped his jaw. The test wasn't definitive. No, Victor agreed. Which means someone made sure it wasn't. Adam eventually faced him. Are you criminating me? Victor's eyes hardened. I'm reminding you who benefits from nebulosity. Adam exhaled sluggishly. I won't lose this child. Victor jounced formally. Also you'd more be prepared to fight. Meanwhile, Noah was doing his stylish to step back into a normal meter, editing late-night footage, grabbing coffee with musketeers, pretending his name hadn't just been cleared in the most public way possible. But peace was fugitive. Every time he allowed. He was out. Genoa City pulled him back by. When he ran into Sienna outside Crimson Lights, the pressure between them was immediate. You look like you haven't slept, Noah said. She forced a smile. Gestation wakefulness. He studied her. That's not each, is it? Sienna dithered. She owed him the verity now. At least part of it. The DNA test wasn't conclusive. Noah lowered. Meaning Adam might not be the father after all. Meaning, she corrected vocally, that effects are about to get worse. Across city, Phyllis was formally 2-way ahead. She'd followed the paper trail, made a many calls, and connected blotches no bone. Differently had noticed. Holden's name popped up like a bad penny, old fiscal records, once business dealings, a unforeseen return to the US after times abroad. Well, hello, trouble, Phyllis muttered. She didn't vacillate. She went straight to Summer. Still, Phyllis advised, this baby story explodes, if Holden shows up. Summer's eyes widened. Adam won't handle that well. No, Phyllis agreed. And that's why we should be ready. Sienna eventually met Holden at a quiet bar on the outskirts of city, far from familiar faces.